inside of my little bowl right here, I've got our hard oils measured out according to the recipe. So that's going to be 8 ounces of our cocoa butter, 8 ounces of our shea, and then 8 ounces of our coconut oil. And I'll provide links to the butters and the oils down in the description below. So the first thing that we're going to do is prepare our lye water. I've got my scale right here. And I've got my distilled water. This one I just got from my local Kroger. So I'm gonna put my bowl, and then I'm gonna tear that weight out. And according to the recipe, right over here, we're going to be adding 8.21 ounces of water and 5.47 ounces of lye. So let's go ahead and pour that in. So I poured in 8.64 ounces of water. I'm gonna go ahead and just pour some out, just so that I can be precise with my water amount. And now we're gonna tear that out, and we're gonna add our lye. The lye that I'm using today is from Essential Depot, and I'll provide a link to this exact bottle that I'm using down in the description below. So the recipe calls for 5.47 ounces of lye, so we're gonna go ahead and pour that in right now. Okay, so now we've got our lye put inside of the water. We're going to mix it up, and you're gonna make sure that all of the lye dissolves right at the bottom of the pitcher that you're using. And what I do personally is, some people prefer to wait until it's room temperature. Some people prefer to wait until it's cooled down a little bit to soap, but not me. I feel like that takes too much time. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as I mix this up, it's going to get very hot, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pour it over our hard oils, and I'm gonna let it melt, and the heat transfer is gonna bring everything down to about room temperature. And that's how I prefer to soap. It saves a lot of time, and we can get started right away. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. Okay, so the lye is good and incorporated into the water now. So we're gonna go ahead and take our bowl of the oils right here. I've got the coconut oil, the cocoa butter, and the shea butter right here. And we're gonna go ahead and take our lye water and just pour it right over those oils. Make sure that you're doing this very slowly so that you do not get any splashes. And of course, I am geared up for safety right now. I am wearing my safety goggles, I'm wearing a face mask, and I've got my gloves on. Put your lye container off to the side. And now you can start moving your hard oils and your hard butters around inside of the hot lye water that's there at the bottom. And this is going to melt your butters. So we'll go ahead and we'll mix this up very gently and very slowly until everything is melted. Okay guys, so as you can see, everything is melted inside of my bowl here. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put this off to the side, and we're gonna work with our liquid oils, which is just gonna be the olive oil inside of the recipe. For the colorant, I'm using cocoa powder. Now this is just the 100% cacao powder that you can get at any grocery store. So I went ahead and I took about 2 tablespoons, and I'm just gonna put it right inside of the oils just like this. This is gonna make sure that our entire soap turns a nice chocolatey brown color. And the reason why I chose the cocoa powder is because it doesn't have any sugar in it. If you use sugar whenever you're soap making, it does have a chemical reaction. It'll make your soap get very hot, and it'll also increase the bubbles. But since we're just doing a little beginner's course today, we're not gonna do anything like that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick my stick blender inside of the olive oil. I'm gonna burp it just to try and get some of those bubbles out, just like that. And we're gonna blend in the cocoa powder. Okay, perfect. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to blend in my soft oils, my room temperature liquid oils right here into my lye and butter emulsion. As you can see here, this mix is 100 degrees and my olive oil is at 72. So we're going to go ahead and pour this in. And it's gonna lower the temperature even further so that you're working at about room temperature. And working at room temperature is gonna give you lots of time to do your swirls, to put it into the mold. It's just gonna be overall easier to work with. Now that our liquid oils are poured inside of the emulsion, I'm gonna go ahead and stick in my stick blender, burp it, and then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna blend this up until we reach a trace. Now, trace in cold process soap is referring to whenever you take your stick blender out of the mix, just like this, and go like that. And if you can see the batter sitting on the surface of the mix right here, that's what we call the trace. You want to make sure that everything is completely emulsified. Now, there are different levels to trace. There's a thin trace, like what we have right here. There's a medium trace, and then there's thick trace. So what I'm going to do at this point, now that we have our mix at a thin trace, is I'm going to take the fragrance oil. So the fragrance oil that we're going to be using is fresh coffee, and it's a sample set that I got from Candle Science. I'm going to go ahead and provide a link to this fragrance oil down in the description below. I believe that even with the shipping, to get a fragrance oil this small, it was only about $6. So if you're interested in making soap and you just want to try it maybe one time and still do a fragrance oil of your choice, Candle Science is a really good place to choose a scent this small. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour it straight into the oils. And then we're going to go ahead and blend it up. The recipe calls for 1.25 ounces of fragrance oil. And this little bottle is 1 ounce, so it's perfect. So we'll go ahead and blend this in. So as you can see, the batter kind of started to thicken now. So I think that this is a perfect texture for us to pour it inside of the mold. This mold right here I got on Amazon. I think it was only like $9 or $10, so it's very, very affordable. I've marked exactly where my bars are going to be at right here, and also right there, because my bar size is a little bit smaller than what this mold is, and I will be cutting it to my normal bar size. But if you guys at home are using this mold, you can go ahead and just pop it out whenever it's ready and use a knife to just cut it at 1-inch sections, and you'll be good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna take my bowl, and we're just gonna pour it straight in. I've got just a little bit of batter left over, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of my small individual molds, and then I'm just going to pour it inside of there. If you don't have any small silicone molds, you could pour this just into like a little Tupperware or something like that, something where it'd be really, really easy to pop it out the next day. So I just got a little silicone mold here. So I'm just going to put it down right there and pour it right inside. And that takes care of the extra batter that I've got. Okay, so now that we've poured this inside of the mold, the next thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna wait for it to thicken up a little bit. We're gonna texture the top, and then I've got some coffee beans and some coffee grounds to decorate the top with, and then we'll be done. So I'm just gonna let this thicken up and we'll be right back. Okay guys, we're back. So we went ahead and we let the soap set for about 30 minutes. And so at this point, it should be just about ready for us to texture the top and just give it a little bit of interest. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take my handy dandy spoon over here, and I'm just gonna test it first. So as you can see, I marked my mold right here. This right here is my actual bar size, so I'll be cutting this little bit off over here, and then this is how thick my bars are. So I'm gonna start over here and move the texture towards this side of the bar. So let's go ahead and just stick it in and just push, just like that. Yeah, that's perfect. And we're just gonna do that all across the bar. So actually instead, I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use the end of the spoon to give it some texture. So let's see how we like that. Okay guys, so now that I have a texture that I'm somewhat happy with, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go in with these coffee beans right here. And honestly guys, if you guys are going to Starbucks every day, you could ask your local Starbucks if you could just have a few of their coffee beans. That's what I did to get these ones, and you know, they just gave me just like a little handful and didn't even charge me or anything. So these are my bars right here marked along the mold. So all I'm going to do is I'm just gonna take these little coffee beans, and right on the top of the texture, I'm just gonna stick 2 or 3. Just for decoration, just like that. Okay guys, there we go. So now we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna leave this soap to harden up for about 18 to 24 hours, and we'll be back tomorrow to cut it up.